the entrepreneurial thing was driving me, man. It was driving me so much, but there wasn't enough in the schools that I was in to cultivate that part. So I had to go to college to figure out what that next phase was.
And then also telling people not to throw their gift away. We get people that, oh man, I want to write. I'm a writer, but there's no money in that. Yes, it is.
Now, this is the part that's essential to me: is that the high schoolers, man, they realize how important they are, and especially in particular the students of color realize
not having the same access or privilege or whatever you want to title it as my white counterpart, and the country was built on the back of my ancestors.
My college draft is proud to announce my conference called Educate You. Educate You core areas will cover recruitment, retention, and how to build a strong alumni base of underrepresented and first-generation college students. Well, you're tuned in to another episode of Educate You, brought to you by My College Draft, where education is the new money. Get some. I am Lamar Thompson, CEO of My College Draft.
And I'm David Hartman.
Hilarious. David's hilarious. So today we're going to talk about the essentials of college. David and I have been in higher ed for a number of different years, and we've seen a growing trend. We've been talking about various attitudes, and people compare the various generations. This generation is called millennials. And so what we're looking at is the essentials of college. So we're going to start off with talking about why is college essential. So David, go ahead and get us started, man. Well, tell us why you think college is essential.
I think college is important, one, for people to try to get their lives to the next level, whatever that next level may be. Now, the variance of college and where they go and all that kind of stuff, that really depends on the person and what they want to get out of life. For the most part, the world really, we're in a system, right? So that system requires that you have some type of degree, you have some type of experience, you have some type of work experience. So all of those things are important. In order to get those, you gotta go to college, or you get a job, and you can also get the job, sometime down the road, hit that wonderful thing like we like to call a glass ceiling, and then you have to go back to college.
Right. So as you know, David, I am very student. I'm very student centered. I'm definitely an advocate for students. And so when I look at why is college essential, man, I have to dig a little bit deeper to make sure, because I love what higher ed can do if done right. I love it. Now, the essential part, that word alone speaks a volume. I know when I went to college, the mantra was, if you went to college, you were going to make this much money, as opposed to if I didn't go to college, what life could be like better if I went to college, just for me as my personal development. And for me, I would agree to the personal development part. The essential part is where I was still kind of struggling with, because could I had survived without college? Well, college, of course, is going to say no. But then I'm looking, when I'm in college, I'm looking at the time when I was in school, again, it was not a lot of support, right? And so here it is, you're getting FAFSA, you're getting bombarded basically with a lot of different information financially, and you had to deal with your academics, and wrapped around that with a nice little bow was called life. And so at the time, you didn't have a lot of people that can help you with academics and your personal development. And so here it is, you have to balance on your own. So you have to decide, okay, how much time am I going to spend on making myself a better person, as opposed to my academics. And so a lot of times academics lost, right? Because some students may have come from more of a protective environment coming to college. So that first time coming to college was their, I guess, their freedom, if you will, at the time. And so when I look at students now, they may be a little bit more well-rounded, whereas the TV raised my generation, but it looks like the internet is raising this one. And so when you look at, go ahead, David.
Let me ask you this question real quick. Do you feel like you would be in the place you are in life now if you did not go to college versus dealing with all those wonderful things that happen going to college, right? You got life, you learn about financial aid and all that kind of stuff. Sure. You're a first time student, you're trying to find your bearings. You may be the first one in your family. But the long term outcome, right, of position in life and opportunity, do you feel like you would be in the same spot or a better spot if you didn't go?
That's a really good question. So for me personally, I'm very entrepreneurial. So if you would have placed me in most environments, I would have thrived. To be very honest with you, I would have thrived. To be very honest with you, I would have approached it like a student, because I typically try to study really hard, whatever the subject matter is, and then I go 2 feet in. And so for me, I feel like college, at some points, it was kind of in the way, because at the time I was taking all these different courses, but I always knew I wanted to be in business. I just didn't know what type of business I wanted to go in. But when I'm taking all these various courses, I didn't have time to think about the business, because I'm now thinking about academics. And so then when I'm doing my academics, now I'm thinking, I'm daydreaming about business. So what would have happened for me is having the right advisor, the right counselor to kind of walk me through Lamont, then academics. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I probably, it's a really good question, and it's hard to answer, because I'm like, at that particular time, kind of like the first to go to college, but the entrepreneurial thing was driving me, man. It was driving me so much, but there wasn't enough in the schools that I was in to cultivate that part. So I had to go to college to figure out what that next phase was. And so while I was in college, I became even more entrepreneurial. So in that aspect, I would say to you that college did benefit me in that instance, where it made my hunger become starvation. Like I wanted it without a doubt, but see, this is the trick though, David. I started wanting the entrepreneurial side more than I wanted the academics.
Okay. That's where so I feel you. I feel you on that. So what your situation, I would say, is a little different than most people, right? You actually have an idea of an area or something you want to be in. Most people that I see that come in, they don't know what they want to do. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't know where they're going to go in life. They don't know none of that stuff, right? And then they also don't know what tools they need in order to get to where they need to go. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you come in and you like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this and this is what I'm going to do. So like you said, really having a counselor or an advisor who knows you and has spent that time with you to say, okay, awesome. You need to take this, that, and the third. You need to make sure you get some internships in. You need to make sure you do this. Are you planning on being an international business person versus whatever? You need somebody to sit down and actually break that stuff down, right? How do you start a company? Are you going to be tax exempt? Or are you planning on getting an LLC? Are you going to be by yourself with a sole proprietorship? Like, you need someone in that sense who's going to walk you through that. But most of the people, like I said, that come across the table, they don't have a clue. Mm-hmm. So first thing is they got to figure out, why am I here? What am I doing this for? The world tells me in order to move forward, I need a degree, right? Mm-hmm. And then you got some kids who are stuck between, hey, I just don't want to go work. And I still want to party. I want to do all this other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But figuring out what they need to do and what their purpose is,
Mm-hmm.
I think is a much bigger thing when kids come in. So just
Mm-hmm.
throwing them into whatever program they may even say, just coming out the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them are do it because mom said this or dad
Right.
said that, or this is where the money's at, so this is hot. Um, but it's not where they are, and it's not where their passion is. It's not what they love. So one of the things that I always ask people is, okay, outside of the small and tangible things that you have now, your phone, boyfriend, girlfriend, all that little stuff. What are the things in life that you could not live without, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, okay, now let's look at what your family does. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what have you inherited as far as a gift or talent, or what is your natural God-given gift?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, somewhere in there is we can start getting somewhere to figuring out, okay, this is my purpose, or this is where my job is going to be, or whatever. So, like, I don't find it a mistake or an incident or an accident that someone becomes a doctor and their parents are doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or their grandparents are doctors, or someone becomes a police officer in the Air Force when their great grandfather was a sheriff, their whole family was in the military at some different point. Like those things, I feel like for a little bit are being taught, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
those people are speaking that language around their kids the entire time. The kids get to see them in that space, right? So I feel like a lot of what we're going to do, what we're going to end up doing, kind of falls in juggling somewhere in between that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also telling people not to throw their gift away.
Mm-hmm.
We get people that, oh man, I want to write. I'm a writer, but there's no money in that. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to have the right person talking to you. You know what I'm saying? So um, anything that we see on television, anything that we see while we're driving our cars, magazines, whatever, someone had to write that. Every company for the most part has a PR person. They write.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are making decent salaries doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not aware of them, right? People
Mm-hmm.
aren't aware of them. No one's taking the time to sit those people down and say, okay, this is what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lane for you to be able to make a good living. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but this is how to do it. This is where the knowledge is,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I feel like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like a lot of people are just misdirected. They're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
out here doing whatever. They in it for the party. Society says this is the next step, so that's where I'm going, or whatever the case may be. So.
Mm-hmm. So you're tuned in to Educate You, brought to you by My College Draft, where education is new money. Get some. We're dealing with the essentials of going to college. We just talked about why. Why is college essential? Now, what we want to do is kind of dive into how it's essential. Like, what are some of the ingredients? Okay, and we can probably tie in what are the essential ingredients. So we're gonna go from how, and then we're gonna go into what are the some essential or ingredients that make college essential. So, for me personally, David, I'm gonna say the how as I kind of traverse on various campuses now. How it's essential is a little bit different today because now there's a lot more hands-on opportunities at the school. So if you are an entrepreneur or if you are someone who is very good with your hands, the machines are state-of-the-art machines. If you're an entrepreneur, typically you have access to equipment that you would have to pay a lot of money for otherwise, right? Now, again, I keep dealing with the issue of time because when you are in I don't like to use the word poverty, but if you are in a situation where there is lack financially, you want to get to the answer or the solution to solve the lack as quick as possible. And a lot of times college don't allow you to solve that as quick. Now we have you have exceptions to the rule where you have, Zuckerberg, who did it in his freshman year, or you have Bill Gates who did it in their freshman year. But you got to look at their background on how they was able to do it their freshman year. They was being developed so early on. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody who has lack is any less gifted than those people. See, now you're talking about resources, and that's where it starts tying into the how, right? The how college can be essential is having, like you was talking about earlier, being able to identify those gifts and start immediately matching those gifts with resources. Would you agree?
Right. So you're talking about having access, and that's a
Yes.
huge thing. Not only having access to knowledge, having access to the people there who have the knowledge, but having access to the raw materials that you need in order to get to the level that you want to get to. So yes, definitely, I 100% agree on that. For as far as people going to college, or going any place of higher education, really. But for me, it still goes back to, okay, make sure I'm in a lane of this is what I'm passionate about. I'm not just doing this for the dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm doing this for the dollar, at some point I'm out, regardless of what it pays. Because if I'm having conflict at work, if I'm having problems at home, if I hate what I'm doing, but the paycheck is fine, my life is going to be miserable. But if I love what I'm doing, it's easy breezy. I ain't gotta go to work never.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So yes, but having those tools and access is definitely important. I don't disagree.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about having professors who are academic scholars but not life scholars?
Okay, so you're trying to switch it up and go deep on me.
Man, brother, we did deep. He went deep.
That's what you're trying to do? You're trying to switch it up and go
deep.
deep. Okay, I see. Oh man. Okay, so here's the realness of life, right? Everybody is not going to care about you as a person. Everybody's not going to care about what your goals or dreams are. Some people are there to do a job, and that may be what they love, right? Like they're into the pluses and the minuses and all that extra. They love the long lecture and the deep intellectual conversation and thought that may not be your deal. But in order for you to be a well-rounded person, a well-rounded scholar, be able to function at a higher level in society, some of that stuff is important for you to grasp. But none of them really get paid to care about how you feel or what you think or anything like that. But that's also where the whole lies as well. So I'm gonna pause on that because I feel like we're gonna go back to that. Pause. Yeah, listen.
So again, I want to welcome those who are tuning in for the first time to our Educate You podcast. I'm Lamont, and here my man David are talking about the essentials of college education. We're dealing with the whys, the hows, the whats of education. And for us, we've been in higher ed for so long, and we've seen good and we've seen bad. And so what we're wanting to do is to make sure that we get as best as we possibly can, get information on the table. Now you can eat if you so choose, but we have a lot of experience, and our recipe that we're giving you today truly is tried and true that can lead to success. So now, what I've been looking at, David, so we were talking about the how essential college is and what are some of the essential ingredients. We're going to kind of, tying those things in as well. And so for me, and as I talk to various college students, man, they're struggling on the how, right? Because they've been made to go to school, because again, you are told that college is a better answer than the other. whatever that means, right? And we're going to talk about other later, but what that other is. And so again, I mentioned earlier about when you're coming from an environment where you don't have a whole lot. I don't like to say ghetto, because ghetto to me is a state of mind, and a lot of philosophers feel the same way. But you coming from an environment where you don't have a whole lot, not just in your neighborhood, I'm talking about in your home. So you sitting up there and you watching your parent or parents, they're struggling financially. They love you the best they can, but when you're struggling financially, then you're sacrificing time, because you have to, instead of spending that more time with your children, sometimes you have to be at work, right? And so a lot of times, if you have, multiple kids, a lot of times the older kid is now also the protector of the smaller kids, and also the helper of the home, where they got to feed those kids, right? And so a lot of times when it's time to choose a college, we're choosing based on the responsibilities of the home rather than my pursuit of my dreams and aspirations.
Yeah, I feel that. And I've had a lot of students that have had that issue. They want to take care of their people at home and all that kind of stuff. The number one thing that I always tell people: you can't take care of nobody else until you take care of yourself, right? If you ever been on a plane, what do they tell you, right? If this thing goes wrong, there's going to be a mast that falls down.
Right.
Put yours on first.
That's right.
And then help somebody else.
That's right.
You can't help nobody else until you help yourself, right? And a lot of reasons why these people are working multiple jobs or whatever is because I do not have the educational background to put me in a position to where I can work a job that's from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever the case may be, work regular hours so I can pick up my kid from school at the end of the day. I can be there to cook meals and all those different things. So having a degree and being able to use that helps with a lot of those different things. So it's a decision, right? Is it going to be tough to swing the pendulum? Yes, right? But the option, what happens on the other end of that, is so much better than where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So for me, it was always, okay, look, I gotta move forward. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with where we were, mm-hmm. but that's not where I want to end. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And now for me, it's really becoming legacy. Like, what do I leave my kids and so on and so forth. So it's really wanting to change, man. You gotta have the hunger to want more and not be okay with just being, this is my situation and I'm just gonna live in my situation. Is it gonna be hard? Yes, such is life. Is there gonna be hurdles? Yes, such is life. I mean, it is what it is. It's gonna happen, right? It's gonna be hard if you get the education. It's gonna be hard if you don't get the education. Mm-hmm. And it may be harder if you don't get the education. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But we do know if you get it, you have a better opportunity to be able to move up a notch. So,
mm-hmm. So we talked about, just briefly, we're talking about the college, university versus other, right? And so what I want to do now is we're gonna go through a series of others, David. All right, and we're gonna kind of talk about where it stands, what the scale where kind of kind of tilts towards. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cover college, university versus trade schools. Okay. So now, what are your thoughts on, because now college and university are now having trade school like options inside the school, right? So what is your, as a person who's been in higher ed as long as you have, how do you see trade school versus college? Do you see them as potential partners, or do you see them as competitors?
I guess I see it in a couple ways. I typically look at stuff through a student's eye first, right? What's best for the student, bro? Like, what are you doing? Like I talked about earlier. Like, if I figured out that I'm gonna work on cars and I'm gonna be the best custom car maker in the world, you know what I'm saying? Then I need to go to a trade school, or I need to go to a 2-year school that has those opportunities for me to move forward, right? Now, if I'm going to go be a nurse or, something, a lawyer or something like that, then I got to put in the time. You're talking about 8 years, right? The other one, we may get 2 years max and be ready to go. So it really depends, excuse me, on what the student wants. Now, from a school side or business side, I feel like it's all competition regardless, right? We're all competing for the same kids. Everybody is trying to get in the new big class and raise their numbers and increase enrollment and making sure their FTE is up to where it needs to be. It's all competitive at that state, right? So as back again as a student, you got to know how to navigate that and see who has their best interests or have an idea what you want to do. But from a college standpoint, I figure it is what it is. Everyone's going to feel threatened or slighted in some type of way if another school or another um, structure of a school is in their territory, because some 4-year schools feel like 2-year schools that are having bachelor's degrees or have an associate for like general studies are in their area, right? Or some tech schools competing with 2-year schools for their CTE programs and what's available there. So I feel like all of that's just competition. If we talk about from a student perspective, know what you want to do, try to figure out what the best opportunity cost price is, where you gonna get the most out of it at, and go for it. Make it happen.
And one thing I want to make sure that the viewers beware when they go into trade school and you're trying to then convert over to a college and university, be very careful of those credits because a lot of those credits will not transfer and it's going to make you mad. So just keep that in mind. If you decide to go to trade school first and then go over to a college and university, a lot of those credits will not transfer. Again,
Right.
they will not transfer. Now, some schools try to accommodate. Now, that's rare. They try to accommodate what you have previously done education-wise, but they're not obligated to do that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, next up, David, is college, university versus a gap year, or let's say the student trying to find themselves, going maybe traveling. What do you feel about that?
I feel like that's a new trend. That's a new thing, right?
Yes.
People taking the year off and saying, I'm going to explore the world. I'm going to find myself. I'm going to see what I want to do. That's fine. I mean, I guess go do it. But statistically, it shows that those students most likely are not going to go back to school. And they're probably not going to be successful because they've had that gap, in between. So, I mean, unless you're one of the 1%ers, you have a great idea as a Bill Gates or something like that. My recommendation is if you're gonna do it, fine, do it, but maybe take one class, take an online class or something. Just keep yourself in the rhythm, right? Just share a quick little personal story real quick. My goal was to go to a 4-year institution, blah, 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 blah. Did not end up having enough money to go where I wanted to go the first year. So I ended up taking some classes at the community college in Houston. Now, I knew if I did not continue going to school, I was not going. Like if I wasn't going to take some classes to stay in the swing of things, know how to learn how to adjust, I was not going. I wasn't going back. I was going to be at somebody's job working, doing manual labor, which I didn't want to do. I had pushed enough carts, stuffed enough bags, handed enough food through the drive-through window. I had did it. I don't want to do it no more. Watch my parents do it. I wanted a different opportunity, but I also knew if I took a gap year, right? If I said, okay, bump it, everything didn't work this year, I'm gonna just get a job and I'm gonna start doing whatever. What happens is life gets in the way, right? And then you're not going back after that. I got a job. I got a place to stay now. I'm no longer at my parents' house. I'm out here living life. I'm caught up in the every day-to-day stuff. I'm caught in my new matrix, right? You're not going to step out of that to go to college.
That's interesting, David. It's important that if a person decides to do the gap year, get the best advice you possibly can get. Do not make that decision by yourself, because you may be basing this off an emotion, or, I'm tired of high school. Let me just jump out here and just find myself. Well, that for me personally, high school is an opportunity for them to cultivate and grow you, right? And so and high school is not perfect, so make sure you get the proper advice from your counselor, your parents, whoever you deem your mentor. If you don't have a mentor, get mentors, because it's important that you make those decisions, because like David said, it's a chance that you get out there and you may have felt, oh man, I'm excited to be free. But what you find yourself, if you make the bad decision, that freedom is the what turns into a shackle if you don't have the right advice. And so now you're stuck. You're stuck in whatever that situation is. But there's always, if you have breath in your body, there's always a way out. And so as long as you're open and coachable, there's always a way out. Okay. So definitely keep that in mind. Seek wise counsel. So again, we want to welcome those. We're coming to a close. We want to welcome those to the Educate You podcast. This is My College Draft. We're talking about the essentials of college. We've just a recap. We talked about why college is essential. We talked about how college is essential. And then we also talked about what are some essential ingredients of college. And now what we're doing is, because when you go to college, a lot of times colleges always say that they're a better choice versus other. And so what we're talking about now is what that other could be. We talked about trade schools. We talked about the gap year, talking about the gap year meaning kind of finding yourself. Now we want to talk about the college university versus getting a job right after college. Right?
Okay.
So David, tell me the benefit of getting a job right after college as opposed to going straight to college. Or if there is any benefit.
I think there is a benefit, right? Because colleges or jobs in particular are looking for people who are fresh out of college that have a specific skill set, right? So for me, it goes back to part of the conversation we had at the beginning, right? Like, what are you passionate about? Cool. We're in there, we're doing that. Great. You got your resources. Beautiful. Now there are places that are looking for people with those skill sets. And are looking to hire people straight out of college with those skill sets. So I feel like that's definitely crucial. Now, you could go get a job before, but you are probably going to enter in that place in a different space first, with a different pay, right? Or you may not enter in that space, period. I mean, it is what it is, right? So say like I was using the example earlier, right? I'm gonna do cars, I'm custom cars, boom, I'm into it, right? Your first initial take from coming straight out of high school, going into that, we could put you at the front desk. If you know how to manage money, if the place is big enough, maybe we can make you into a greeter. That's probably going to be where you come in, if you can even get in the door. Most likely, you'll probably be being the best greeter at Walmart. Now, if you go to school and you get the tools for that particular job, now you can come in actually working on cars, which is what you want to do in the first place. Not knocking any journey, but just having the skills and the paperwork to go behind it is going to get you in the door a lot higher, right? And it's going to get you a lot further. Because even if you do come in, boom, I came in the door, I'm working the cash register, I know how this thing works from the front, I'm understanding the business, beautiful, great. In order for you to be able to work on that car, you got to get the certificates to work on the stuff you need to work on anyway. So you still got to go back to school. So yeah, so I say, you know, that really that for me, that's the difference, right? Like I said earlier, you hit a glass ceiling, or you go take care of business and then do what you need to do. So
that's interesting. See, and what a lot of students, I mean, it doesn't matter the age. There are so many jobs that actually pay you to go to school, right? And so if I feel like if the viewer is kind of up in the air, but you have to kind of help out at your home and you have to get a job instantly or kind of be kind of close to home as opposed to going, you know, away.
yeah,
Look for jobs that will allow you to have reimbursement or will pay for your college education. I mean, there's a lot of options that are out here right now. If you had to choose a job over college, if you don't want to go to college, that's one thing. But if you would have a desire to go to college and you feel like you maybe can't afford it, and you are choosing to get a job, look for jobs that will allow you reimbursement opportunities as well as really want to look for college assistance programs at the schools. So, Dave, let's go to
internships.
internship. Yeah, definitely look for internship opportunities. So let's dive into the university, college versus military. You know, everybody's patriotic right now. So, what do you think about that?
I just vote school.
Yeah.
That's gonna be me. I just vote school.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I go further than that, everybody gonna hate me. But
yeah.
I just say I would vote school, man.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, you want to go into the military, serve your country, do that. We greatly appreciate you. We appreciate the sacrifice. But for me and mine, school.
Definitely.
We're not going the other route.
Definitely. I too agree. I applaud those who were able to make military work for them. Right. I definitely applaud that, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But to each his own, you know, as far as the decision is concerned, because I have some really good friends, people I consider like family, who have chosen military and use military to go to school, and it worked for them. You know, it worked for them. Now the last one.
Hey, I'm gonna say this before we jump to the next topic.
Yeah.
If y'all want to catch a debate versus going to college or versus going to military, let's have that discussion. How does it improve a person's life? And what the obstacles are. Like, let's really sit down and have that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, I'm not going to be hating me, so I'm just saying.
We're always open. We're always open for discussion. That's real. That's what Educate You is about. And this is why my college draft created it, man, for this type of platform. So that's really good, David. So now let's talk about our final is college university versus ethnicity. I know that speaks volume as just I could leave that right there, but we hear so many correlations and educational lopsidedness when it comes to ethnicity. And if you look historically, academically, when you take a resource from someone, does that make the group who have the resource more privileged, more have an advantage? Because if you look at it, David, I did. If you look at, I mean, a lot of the slaves were inventing things without a book, right? And so what I'm saying is that you know, I listened to the demographic information saying that, you know, this ethnic group and people of color are, again, we still years and years later still are on this kick of we're going lower, but it's gone up, but they're still saying there's still that little piece where we're not where we should be. And then you start looking at colleges talking about making college more accessible. So they're saying to make college more accessible, they want to lower their standard to allow people of color coming in, which I think is stupid, right? Because the grand scheme of things is, and what I want to tell anybody of color, first and foremost, is that you have to create your own standard. You do not allow someone, no, whether it be college, whether if you choose the military, whatever you may choose, you create your standard and allow the entity that want you there or want you to be a part of their system to create your standard. So when a college tells you that here's these nuances and we can make it work for you, I mean, you really need to think about that, because I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna be honest, David, I'm very, very student advocate. I'm very about that advocacy for students, man. Is that a lot of times they're looking at that student and they're watching that student and they're like, you know, they don't give that student a chance because of some test score or some crazy rule that the school came up with. This student is now being, I would say, profiled in a sense, right? And so now what the student don't know is that profile is taking place. But those of us who've been in higher ed, we know what the heck's going on. So that's why we are having this particular type of discussion, because we have to put whether it be inspiration, whether it may be coaching, whether it may be, we don't handhold, but if we got to put a foot somewhere, you have to understand that you have to create your own standard, right? Now, David, from your perspective, talk about college university versus ethnicity and how really where it stands right now and where it can be better.
Oh man. Let's just say you struck a lot of chords in what you just said. So before I get into that, there's something that you said that I have to touch really, really quickly.
Okay.
Right. So you talked a little bit about slavery and, you know, blacks building things and that type of nature. I was really having a deep thought about this a few days ago, actually, and just thinking about how pissed off or angry a person could get off of not having the same access or privilege or whatever you want to title it as my white counterpart, and the country was built on the back of my ancestors. Like, that really, really pissed me off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I can't be out here yelling and going crazy and all that kind of stuff. But just some food for thought. Think about that. Now, I'll go ahead and move to the question, right? To be honest, I feel like most colleges are not ready to deal with diversity, equity, inclusion, whatever you want to call it. They're not ready, right? They're not taking the time to actually know those students, try to help them, or meet them where they are. What they typically do is, because you look different, my expectation for you is different, right? My patience for you is different. It's shorter, right? Where one person in the classroom could get away with everything, right? But you do one thing, you're a problem, you're an issue in this class, right? So instead of trying to help those students, we tend to put a target on their back. We tend to label them. And a lot of it is done subconsciously, because they feel like, hey, this person came from a low income, first generation type background. They obviously don't have the education because of the environment that they came from. So we put a label on them. And I'm not gonna go over the simple stuff so we can get back up to where I need to be. So it's a problem there, or is the problem deeper than there, right? Because I also feel like if you want the kids to be college ready, we should probably start getting them ready in high school, right? We should probably start looking at what's available to those kids in those high schools, right? Why does one school have iPads and the newest, greatest technology, and the one in the neighborhoods that aren't as privileged, as you use the P word, do not have the same thing? They have old Torah books, highlight books that are 2 and 3 editions old. They do not have the same resources and access as the other students in the neighborhoods that normally have access. So I don't feel like, as far as college goes, most of us are ready. No, I do feel like HBCUs do a great job at that, which that brings up a whole nother debate. We talked about that in the last one, but
Right.
anyways, I do feel like they do a good job with that.
Yeah.
But once again, they don't have the resources and the access to some of the things that a PWI does. So I just feel like every school should be trying to serve their students and serve them to the best of their ability. Instead of shunning people or putting labels on them, trying to meet them where they are, take the time and try to get to understand them and move forward. So that problem is way bigger than college. That's a world problem. But
I would like to see if any of the viewers, if you're doing anything to help students of color at your school, feel free, inbox us or whatever it is, because we want to make sure that students understand they are, and this is just me, David, honestly, man, but I tell students all the time, man, do not go to college saying you are a student, because now you're putting yourself in a position. Now it's cool. Now I'm always gonna be, I love to learn. So you're a student, but when you are a partner, you approach this whole thing a little bit different. Because why? Because now I have expectations now. My expectation is, I know what my role is, and when you are a student, you sign these documents saying, if I take out this student loan, this is what happens. Right. This is a repercussion. But the school don't have to sign a document saying, if you don't get anything out of my education, then this is what happens to us. So now this is the part that's essential to me, is that the high schoolers, man, they realize how important they are. And especially in particular, the students of color realize that now that the demographics are now saying that whether it be black, brown, or whatever, you're going to be the more dominant at that school. So now the school acting like you are important. So now if that's the case, then be important now. Walk in importance right now. Don't wait until somebody say you're important. Know you're important. If you don't know you're important, my college draft would love to pour into your life so that you can understand how important you are, because you are truly essential. If anybody, you're essential to us. And we appreciate your efforts. We appreciate all your hard work. And if you don't work hard, we got about 4 or 5 different sets of feet that's ready to go in this right, proper place, because we believe in hard work. We understand that education is new money, and we encourage you to get some. David, is there any last words that you want to give to the people, man?
I would say that the biggest thing is, man, your life is yours, right? You get to decide what the outcome is. It may be difficult, it may be easy, it may be whatever, but you get to decide what the outcome is. At the end of the day, if you want to go get it. Other than that, you got anything else before we close out?
Hey, that's it, man. I just want to remind the people that you've been listening to the Educate You. We're talking about the essentials of college, and we talked about the whys, we talked about the hows, we talked about the whats, we talked about the various, I would say, versus college versus something else. It's always something versus college. Like, college is not always the only option. There's other options, and today we kind of discussed some things. So if you feel like there's other things that we should have said, or you feel like you disagree, hey, this is what this is for. This is Educate You, brought to you by My College Draft. And remember always, education is new money. Get some.
Yeah. Hey, also like, comment, subscribe. If you got some suggestions, anything, go to work on them keys. Put down in the box. All right, we'll holler at y'all.
All right.
They say in the end, the strong survive.